Hello and welcome to our June 2-day summit, the Somatic Trauma Healing Summit. And my name is Allison and I am your host for this session. So today's class is Ayurveda to Heal and Prevent Trauma-Related Illness with Zeeba Khan. Zeeba is an internationally experienced Ayurvedic clinician, meditation teacher, energy healer, and motivational speaker who uses holistic treatment to restore her patients' mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual health, and to prevent disease and disorders. In particular, she focuses on healing trauma, which often leads to anxiety, depression, feelings of loss, and low self-esteem. She's also a leading practitioner with Mindvalley's Solvana, and Zeeba is trained and certified in the Ayurveda sciences at Union Yoga Ayurveda, affiliated with Atriya Ayurvedic Medical College and the Indian Institute of Patanjali Yoga, associated with Swami Paramahansa Samstana, and a registered member of the National Ayurvedic Medical Association. So we're so happy to have you here with us, Zeeba, and we will let you take it away.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining me this afternoon. I'm on the US East Coast and I'm so thrilled to be with all of you. So just give me a moment, please, to share my screen with all of you. So today we will be talking about Ayurveda and how we can use Ayurveda to heal and prevent trauma-related illness. Just as a little note, today I'm not looking to heal anyone per se. We are just using the tradition of Ayurveda and holistic health to make people's lives better. I never ever claim to be able to cure. Sometimes it is a cure in the end, but I never go in from the beginning claiming that I'll be able to cure them. A little bit about me. I used to be a former professor of communication many moons ago, and then I segued. I had a major career change once my son was born, and he was actually diagnosed with asthma, and we lived in LA at the time, and I knew that I didn't want him to be on asthma medication all his life and to be on a nebulizer. And so I turned to my roots to pursue something natural, given that I was told at that time that it would be a chronic, lifelong illness. And so I turned to Ayurveda, and within 6 months, his asthma was gone. And that's when I really decided to help spread the word of Ayurveda to as many people as I possibly could. And I went back and I got training in it. So now I'm an Ayurvedic clinician, a meditation teacher, an energy healer. And, like the introduction said, we focus on the 4 bodies to treat and prevent disease and disorders. We look at the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health of an individual. My area of specialty is trauma. And trauma, as we know, once we've experienced it, very often later in life develops into anxiety and depression and feelings of loss and low self-esteem, which impact all facets of our life. And, I've dealt with corporate clients. I see individual clients on a one-on-one basis. I've done workshops at schools internationally. And I'm also a leading practitioner on Mindvalley's Solvana meditation app. And perhaps a highlight of my career was a couple of years ago when His Holiness, the Dalai Lama's office, reached out to me and asked me if I would be on a panel with His Holiness on the topic of integrated healthcare and compassion. And that's something that we all know, especially in a Western system of medicine. There's always a rush when we're in the doctor's office, and oftentimes we're not treated as human beings with feelings who've just received a diagnosis. There's very much a disconnect between the diagnosis and seeing us as a person, as an individual who has been changed and whose life has been impacted by a diagnosis. Often this element of compassion is missing. And so that's what our panel discussion was on that day. According to Ayurveda, and this is very important, health is not merely the absence of disease, but it's actually the presence of a lot of things. In the West, we think, okay, you're either healthy or you're sick. And in Ayurveda, we say not being sick is not enough to make you healthy. Health requires us to be happy and to have an inner sense of well-being. And Ayurveda says that this is done when our body is clear of toxins, our mind is at peace, our emotions are calm and happy, our digestive system is functioning efficiently and we're eliminating waste properly, and our organs are functioning optimally. So ultimately, Ayurveda healing is all about balance. And the more balanced we are, then the healthier we are. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to start with Ayurveda at the macrocosmic level, and then we'll work inwards towards the spiritual level, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty minutia of Ayurveda. So we have in Sanskrit what's called the Panchakosha, which are the 5 sheaths. And we use these 5 sheaths to heal a person through diet, herbal supplements, therapy, yoga therapy, which are very specific asanas for whatever ailment a person has. For example, if they're experiencing back pain, there are very specific modifications on yoga asanas to help heal the back and to strengthen the back. So this is not just yoga in a yoga class, but it's really yoga therapy. These are not things that you would find in a classroom at a yoga studio. And last, we always employ meditation or some form of pranayama to tap into the spiritual body to heal an individual. So Ayurveda is a holistic approach to heal the human body on all 5 levels of being. And so we start from the outside, from the largest, grossest layer or sheath to the most subtle, respectively. So in the diagram below, we start at the Annamaya Kosha level in the red circle, and we work inward toward Atman, or our soul. And we'll get into these in detail in just a moment. So the Annamaya Kosha is the physical body, and we help to heal this body through food and diet. Then one step within that, one layer within that, is the Pranamaya Kosha, and that's the energy sheath. And Pran, as many of you, I'm sure you know, is the life force energy. So Pranamaya has to do with the movement of the breath, which carries the life force energy throughout our body. One layer within that is the Manomaya Kosha, which is the mind, it's the mental sheath. And emotions are at the center of the mental sheath because our thoughts and emotions are intertwined. And very often when I look at a person's mindset, it's driven by emotions. It's driven by how they feel about themselves, their sense of self-esteem, and whether it's high or it's low, and how they perceive themselves to be and what they perceive themselves to be worthy of and deserving of in this world. Vijnanamaya Kosha refers to the wisdom layer, and this is the conscience that really guides our decisions. So it's how we, from the previous level, it's how we think and feel about ourselves. And then Vijnanamaya Kosha is more of what we know the truth of ourselves to actually be once we're consciously making decisions and no longer operating on automatic pilot and preconditioned upbringing. And most deeply, we have Anandamaya Kosha, which refers to the bliss sheath. And this is our joy center, our happiness center. And when the body is not diseased, when we're full of positive energy, we feel satisfied, then we've got peace in the mind, in the heart, and in the soul. And so it is here that we really experience deep healing. And to heal someone, we have to address all 5 of these sheaths. So we go from the physical body to the energetic body, to the mind, emotions, consciousness, and lastly, to a sense of bliss. So this is another way that we can perceive that same diagram, starting with the fuchsia in the center, that's the body, then the energetic body, then the green layer is the mind, and then we have the conscience in the Vijnanamaya Kosha body, in that blue that we see there. We have the Anandamaya Kosha. And then here we have Atman in purple, kind of housing all of it. Again, Atman is our soul. And so it is through these 5 bodies that our soul is expressed. So why is all of this important? Well, we have these 5 layers, but within Ayurveda, we also have something called Panch Mahabhuta, which are the 5 great elements of nature. And they are earth, water, fire, air, and space. And these elements form in very unique ways to create who we are today. There's a saying in Ayurveda, Yatapinde tat brahmande, which means as is the macrocosm, so is the microcosm being us. So whatever is experienced out there in the universe is also experienced within us. Whatever's out there in the universe, in the sky and the solar system, also resides within us. And these are those 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, and space. So everything that's out there is also within us, which also helps to reinforce this concept of oneness and unity, not only with nature, but with each other. So these 5 elements combine in particular ways to create 3 unique doshas. So air and ether, or space, combine to form Vata dosha. Earth and water combine to form Kapha dosha. And fire and water combine to form Pitta dosha. So what are the doshas and why are these important? A dosha is a mind, body, spirit constitution. And so these are basically who we are. Now we all have all 3 of these doshas. It's just a matter of which one is primary, which one is secondary, and which one is tertiary, and in what ratio do we have them. So one of the purposes of Ayurveda is to help achieve balance between these 3 doshas so that we can have optimal health. So Vata is the air principle, and it controls all movement in the body. Pitta is in charge of our digestive system, metabolism, and it's the element of transformation within our body. And lastly, Kapha is the water principle, and it relates to mucus, to lubrication. It has to do with the formation of end products in our arterial system. So let's talk some about characteristics of Vata dosha. Vata dosha people tend to be creative and quick to learn and grasp new knowledge. We tend to be slender, tall, fast walkers. There's a tendency to have cold hands and feet and discomfort in cold climates. There's also a sense of excitability in life. There's a lot of personality, but Vata dosha people can also have very changeable moods. Then we have high energy in short bursts. There's a tendency to tire easily and to overexert. We tend to be full of joy and enthusiasm when we're in balance. But when we're not, we will respond to life with stress and fear, worry, anxiety, especially when we're out of balance. We can be impulsive and often have racing, disjointed thoughts. And generally, from a physical perspective, we'll have dry skin and dry hair, and we won't perspire too much. When it comes to physical imbalance, we'll experience constipation, arthritis, colon imbalances, neurological imbalances, and we'll be prone to things like the development of Alzheimer's or Parkinson's with age if we don't take care of ourselves. With our Pitta dosha people, they tend to have a medium physique, they're strong, they're well built, They're very, very sharp. They're great leaders, orderly, focused, assertive, self-confident. They are fantastic entrepreneurs at best, but they can be bossy when they're too pitta vitiated. They can be aggressive at times, demanding. I don't know if this sounds like you as I'm going through these lists, if you're identifying with a particular dosha. They can also be competitive and enjoy challenges. They can be passionate and romantic at times, have strong digestion, appetite. They can also get hangry easily. And when under stress, pittas can become irritated and even angry. They can feel easily uncomfortable in the sun or in hot weather and perspire easily. And they're also subject to temper tantrums. When they feel too hot, they become impatient and they feel angry. And when it comes to physical problems, they tend to retain heat. So they'll experience rashes, inflammations of the skin, acne, boils. In very extreme cases, they'll develop skin cancer, ulcers, heartburn, indigestion, and even they'll have a burning sensation in their eyes. Lastly, with kapha dosha people, they tend to be very easygoing, relaxed, slow-paced, affectionate and loving, forgiving. Our kapha dosha people are very compassionate and non-judgmental. They're stable, reliable, faithful people and friends. They're physically strong and they tend to have a sturdy, heavier build compared to our vata dosha and pitta dosha people. They'll tend to speak slowly and reflect a very deliberate thought process. Additionally, they have a very, very sharp memory. When you look at them physically, they tend to have very soft hair and skin with a low, soft voice. These are more of our quiet talkers. They have a propensity to gain weight easily because they have slow digestion, and they're also prone to depression. In life, they tend to be gentle and essentially they approach life with a very undemanding way, and they approach it in a very easygoing, laid back manner. They're very calm, they don't get upset easily, and very often they're a point of stability for other people. They can be possessive and hold on to grudges at times. They're also averse to cold, damp weather. Physically, they are very prone to colds and congestion, to sinus headaches, to respiratory issues, things like asthma, allergies, atherosclerosis, but also they're prone to diabetes and they're prone to heart disease because they tend to naturally enjoy having sedentary lifestyles. Exercise does not come easily to our kapha dosha people. So keep in mind that, again, all of us have all three of these doshas. We all have pitta, vata, and kapha. It's just which one is primary, secondary, and tertiary for you, and then in what ratio do you have them. And once we figure this out, then we can help to prevent many illnesses. Like if we know, for example, that you are a pitta dosha person, you're going to be prone to having too little stomach acid, too much stomach acid, to having indigestion, GERD, acid reflux, stomach ulcers, indigestion frequently. You're very prone to developing liver disorders. And so when you know that, then today you can begin taking measures to prevent from developing those illnesses. Because just because someone tells you that you have a predisposition to something, even genetically, it does not mean that you will eventually end up there. A predisposition is not a predestination. There are many, many steps that you can take to prevent from living a life with those illnesses. In the event that you've already developed those illnesses due to an imbalance, then you can always take steps to reverse the damage that has been caused using Ayurveda. And the first thing the practitioner will do will be to diagnose your dosha, because there are certain herbs that one particular dosha type can take, and it'll be very effective for them. But that same herb might be poison to another dosha type. So Ayurveda really looks at the individual and treating the individual rather than treating the disease or the illness or the imbalance. It's what is right for you. Which herb is best suited for you, for your body, right now at this current moment in time, given your medical history and given your current state of health. So it's not at all a one-size-fits-all medical treatment. When it comes to the emotions, particular doshas are also very much predisposed to developing certain kinds of emotional imbalances. So let's talk about that. Our emotions have a very deep impact on our physical health, mental health, and our spiritual bodies. And if we have deeply rooted, unprocessed emotions, this will absolutely manifest as trauma. And our physical health will always suffer in the end. It might be a matter of time, but it will manifest as physical illness. So again, what I do in these times when I'm healing a client is I will always look at the pran, the life force energy, and the flow, as well as the organs that correspond to where in the body the client is complaining of symptoms. Because in Ayurveda, each organ or symptom is associated with a corresponding emotional or mental state. For example, the liver is the seat of anger in the house, is the seat of anger in the body according to Ayurveda. The gallbladder is the seat of resentment in the body, according to Ayurveda. If we have colon issues, the colon is the seat of criticism in the body, both self-criticism as well as criticism of other people. So if someone comes to me with colon issues, I'm going to look at the voice of their inner critic. When did they acquire this? How old were they? Whose voice is this? Is this a caregiver's voice, a teacher's voice, a community's voice, a family's voice? Why, as adults, are they so harsh on themselves? Why do they have such low self-esteem? And as we get to the bottom of questions like that, then their physical health also begins to improve. So in Ayurveda, again, every organ corresponds to an emotion or a system within the body. And when we ignore these feelings, when we ignore or try to suppress our emotions, we all know they become toxic to our body. I mean, everyone who comes to see me, by and large, comes to see me because they have a physical imbalance. But that physical manifestation goes much deeper. Before it became a physical problem, it was an emotional, mental, and spiritual one. And so we work backwards that way to get the root cause of what has caused this physical imbalance that has finally gotten their attention. And now they're looking to resolve this problem because they have pain, or they've been told they have a lifelong diagnosis, or they have to be on medication for the rest of their lives and they don't want to be. Our Vata dosha people are prone to the emotion of anxiety. And this is because anxiety is an overactivation of our sympathetic nervous system. And Vata, again, governs movement in the body. And so the nervous system falls under the dosha of Vata. So in order to heal anxiety, we've got to balance our nervous system. And the antidote to anxiety is awareness. And our awareness is a very powerful agent for healing. The negative experiences that happened yesterday or years ago, they linger in our memory as trauma. And whenever we relive the past or we become anxious about a painful future, then these old wounds start to take on new life. It's like peeling off the scab. and the wound is there, and again it begins to fester and it takes over, and we re-experience that pain. And when we feel under-resourced within ourselves, and we feel that whatever's happening out there is overwhelming us, it is too much out there for us to cope with internally because we are not well resourced, that is when we experience anxiety. We are overwhelmed with dealing with life and how to cope with circumstances, events, or people. So how do we balance vata? We can do it through aromatherapy, and oils that are particularly effective for vata dosha people are sandalwood, sacred frankincense, and lotus. And in Ayurveda, we suggest placing just a single drop. You don't really need much more than that at all, on your third eye, which is the space between your eyebrows. You can do it on your throat, on your thymus gland, in your navel, on the temples, and also on your wrists. So you don't have to put them in all of those spots. You can just pick one or two. When I'm not feeling balanced, I'll put one on my third eye or on my throat. That way the fragrance moves upward and you can inhale it with each breath as well. Another way to balance vata is to use the pressure point on your left hand. So if you take your left hand and you make a fist with it, where your middle finger falls on your palm, so right there is a pressure point, and you can take the thumb of your right hand and just press hard on that point. You can make little circles if you want, and this will help to relax you tremendously. All you need to do it for is about a minute, maybe even less, but you got to press hard so that it takes effect. It's not a massage. You're really pushing into it and digging into that point. It will help to activate your vagus nerve. It will help to relax you, and it'll help to alleviate the sense of anxiety that you're physically feeling in your body. Because when we feel anxious, we tighten up naturally, we tense up. And so this will help to relax you. As far as breathing exercises, the pranayama goes, Chandra Anulom Vilom, which is known as left nostril breathing, helps to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So it helps to relax us. Because again, remember, anxiety is an imbalance of the sympathetic nervous system, kind of being in this locked on position. And so we're constantly in this state of fight, flight, or freeze. And so when we do left nostril breathing, so that means we close our right nostril and we're inhaling and exhaling out of our left nostril, that helps to activate our parasympathetic nervous system, our rest, relax, and digest mode. And so we bring balance to our vata in that way. We can also ground ourselves. Vata dosha people respond very quickly to nature. So going outdoors, taking your shoes off and walking on the grass is brilliant. Also, sitting on the ground, sitting on the grass and leaning with your back against a tree is fabulous. You can go near a natural body of water as well to balance your vata dosha. So any contact with the earth in any way is phenomenal for vata dosha. But you want the contact with nature again to be on the ground, because vata itself is a combination of air and space. So going out and looking at the night sky will not balance vata dosha, even though that's nature. We want greenery. We want to go back to things that have roots in the earth, because that will help. If we're already up here with vata, we need the kapha to bring us down. And so those are the heavier grounded things closer to the surface of the earth. Last, we can do an abhyanga, a self-massage, with sesame oil in particular to balance vata dosha. And this is a very detailed order of doing a self-massage. But if you just want a shortcut, the easiest thing to do is at bedtime, take a few drops of sesame oil. If your vata dosha is high, be sure to use sesame oil and rub it on the soles of your feet. It'll help you to fall asleep more quickly and to stay asleep as well. If you feel that you need some herbs, and that would be most effective for you, or if you like taking herbs or spices, here is a list of herbs and spices that are very, very effective for calming the mind and also for warming the vata body, because remember, vata tends to run cold physically. If we're looking at pitta dosha, the emotion behind pitta dosha is anger. And the liver, as we talked about earlier, is directly affected by excessive and deeply rooted anger issues. So when pitta accumulates in the mind, this leads to anger. Irritability is also a form of anger. So is annoyance. So sometimes we say, no, I'm not really angry. I'm just annoyed, or I'm mildly irritated. Those are also forms of anger that affect the liver. Fiery emotions like envy, criticism, being too ambitious and not taking into account other people's feelings or how our decisions might impact them, also stem from too much pitta in the mind. And this will affect our liver. And when our liver is out of balance, we tend to be very short-tempered. We're angry very often. And when it's really left untreated, it becomes rage, and the people around us become afraid of us. But when we're able to cleanse the liver, to detoxify it correctly, to restore its strength, and when it's operating at an optimal level, then we're going to have greater mental and physical strength. We're going to have better oxygen flow throughout our body, and it'll actually result in us having a stronger immune system. So the antidote to anger is forgiveness. And we can only forgive really and truly when we're ready to, and only as much as we feel is authentic to ourselves. We cannot force ourselves to forgive someone if they have crossed us, and that's the reason that we're angry. Forgiveness is oftentimes something that we have to revisit. It's not something where we just do it one time, unfortunately, and it's over and done with. But sometimes there can be multiple triggers of the anger that have resulted in trauma for us. And so every time the anger comes up, we have to say, it's you again. And just remind ourselves, it's you again, and I've already let you go. And just to continue to keep releasing. And as we engage in this exercise, the waves of the anger are not as intense as they used to be. And the frequency of those waves of anger are also not as high as they used to be. So even though they're still coming, they're not as intense as they used to be. And that's really an important part of our healing journey. It's not necessarily that we go from being triggered to never, ever, ever being triggered ever again. But it can be that we go from being triggered to just being triggered far less, and being able to be resilient when we are triggered far more quickly than we were before. We don't end up in a state of depression or anxiety or despair, or find the compulsion to self-soothe, but we're able to sit with that uncomfortable emotion of anger towards the person who has wronged us, knowing that it will go and we will be all right. Now, the thing with anger also is there's this element that we feel that, well, if I forgive them, I'm actually somehow condoning what they've done. I'm saying it's okay what they did to me. And that is not at all the case. All that we are doing is in actuality freeing ourselves from the ties that bind us to the one who hurt us. So we are severing those ties and saying, you did what you did, and I'm giving up the hope for a better past. It's happened. It's written in stone. I can't change it. And I'm going to take control and exercise agency over what I can change. I'm going to exercise power over what I can change and say, going forward, no more. We don't even have to talk to the one who wronged us. We don't have to have any communication with them. They don't even need to be living for us to forgive them. We don't have to call them up or send them an email or meet with them face to face and say, I forgive you. If you want to cut them out of your lives, by all means, if you feel that's the right thing for you to do it. And at the same time, you can also forgive them and release yourself from the event or events of the past that are holding you hostage and therefore causing you trauma here today. So how can we balance this pitta dosha? We can also do aromatherapy. In this case, we would use different oils. We'd use sandalwood. Rose is phenomenal to balance high pitta. And jasmine also really helps to calm the nerves. When it comes to breathing exercises, sitkari, or a snake's hissing breath, is the way to go because it immediately draws cool air into the throat. When it comes to grounding for pitta dosha person, the most effective thing for this individual would be to go to a body of water, because remember, pitta is fire. And so when we want to balance fire, we want cool and we want water. And so if a pitta dosha person can go near a natural body of water, great. If they can't, any kind of water would be great. Even running a bath would be great for a pitta dosha person who's feeling, really agitated. They can also do abhyanga or self-massage, and this time they should use coconut oil to help balance that excessive pitta. Again, if you can't do an entire body self-massage, just go with a few drops of coconut oil, rub it on the soles of your feet at bedtime, and it really, really helps to relax you and to allow you to enter deeper sleep. Herbs that can be used for pitta dosha people are listed here. They're all readily available. Aloe vera is phenomenal for our pitta dosha people, and anything bitter, because the antidote to all of the toxic buildup in the liver is actually bitter foods. So you'll see things like amla, which is extremely bitter, chavanprash, which is a bitter herb, chamomile, which is also bitter, and milk thistle, dandelion root. Those things are very, very bitter, and they actually target the liver and help to detox the liver. For our kapha dosha people, we are prone to depression. So we've got vata dosha people prone to anxiety, pitta dosha people prone to anger, kapha dosha people prone to depression. And here, our kapha dosha people have an imbalance in the brain that's caused by a lack of stimuli. These are slow-moving people. And depression is often triggered by an attachment or clinging to a person or a situation that has been lost. And our kapha dosha people will hold grudges. They will not forget easily. They've got sharp memories, and it takes them a long time to process their emotions, very often because they spend the first part of their suffering denying that it exists. But once they actually come to a sense of awareness, they will take action with support, because again, we've got to help them. They won't take action on their own. They know what the right thing to do is. They just need support taking action, and then they'll heal. So sometimes we become angry, we become upset, we become resentful, disappointed because life has not unfolded the way we anticipated it would, and that leads us into this depression. We experienced a trauma, and that has led us into a depression. So how do we get out of it? Well, we go back to what we can control in order to pull ourselves out and through this trauma. And the things that we can control are our thoughts, our words, and our actions. And ultimately, what the outcome of that is, we have to surrender to a higher power. We can only do what we can do, right? We can plant the seeds to grow fruit, but we cannot force, we cannot make the tree bear fruit. We can give it water, we can give it love, we can give it soil, we can, give it fertilizer, we can feed it, love it, take care of it, but there's no guarantee ultimately that that tree will bear fruit. And so here with depression, there's a great element of surrendering to the unknown of the future. We can only tend to the causes, but we cannot force an outcome, no matter how much we desire that outcome. So what can we do to balance kapha? When it comes to aromatherapy, we use cedar wood, cardamom oil, or sacred frankincense to calm down the kapha body and to help dry it out a little bit. For pranayama, we use alternate nostril breathing. So whereas with the vata dosha people, it was only the left nostril, here we need to balance the left and right sides of the brain, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. And so that's why we do breathing through both nostrils. Again, for grounding of kapha dosha people, looking at the moon is actually a lovely way to ground our kapha dosha people. Taking a walk in nature is another way that's very, very grounding for them. Remember, they tend to be sedentary naturally. They like to be sedentary. So anything where we get them up and moving in nature, and it doesn't need to be rigorous, but any activity where they're moving about in nature is very, very invigorating and very soothing for them at the same time. And like our vata dosha people, our kapha dosha people should perform a self-massage with sesame oil on the soles of their feet before bedtime. To balance the kapha body and mind, here is a list of herbs and spices that can be used. These herbs and spices will help to warm up the cold kapha body, as well as to dry out the dampness within it. And also, when it comes to the mind, it will help to activate and rejuvenate the mind so that it's not sluggish or it doesn't get stuck in ruminating thought. So how do we increase this life force energy that we have? You know, we have our 3 doshas and we have our 5 sheaths of the Panchakosha. But how do we increase our vitality and our vigor in life? Well, this vitality and vigor, this life force energy, this sweet vital nectar that keeps us alive, is called ojas in Ayurveda. And it is the juice that ultimately helps our body to run. It's our inner strength, it's our immunity, it's our vibrancy, it's our libido, it's our vitality. And it contains the highest concentration of essential nutrients in our body. And it is very, very important because it helps us to have a stable mind and body, clear consciousness, resilience as well. And there are 2 kinds of ojas in our body. And one is concentrated in the heart. And in Ayurveda, we say there are only 8 drops of that. And then there is an unrefined version of ojas, which permeates throughout our entire body. And ojas can actually be found in acetylcholine within our body. So if we want to help to promote our ojas, there are actually certain things we can eat and drink to do that. Things like almond milk, asparagus, broccoli, dates, mango, rice, and saffron. And I've actually created a lovely recipe for you that you can have at bedtime or even when you wake up. It's a spiced milk recipe, and it's just milk, almonds. If you're using almond milk, you don't have to use the almonds. If you'd like a sweetener, you can put whole dates or honey or even maple syrup, or unrefined cane sugar even. And you add some spices like ginger, cinnamon, cardamom, poppy seeds, saffron, and honey. And you can go back to those lists, you know, that I previously shared with you. So if you're looking, for example, to balance vata dosha, add extra ginger. If you're looking to balance your kapha dosha, add extra cardamom into this. And you just put it all in a blender, you know, whip it up, bring it to a low boil, and you can enjoy your lovely drink either in the morning or at bedtime. The one caveat that I should mention is that saffron is actually an aphrodisiac. And so it can affect different people differently. For vata dosha people, it will make them very giggly and it will give them a sense of being high if they have a bit too much. For pitta dosha people, they will get very sexually aroused from the saffron. And for the kapha dosha people, they'll just feel slightly lighter and they'll feel uplifted. They won't get to the sensation of being closer to a high, the way that the Vata dosha people will be. So again, in Ayurveda, right, different herbs, different spices affect us differently. So, you know, if you're in a wonderful relationship and you have access to great sex, including self-pleasuring, and you're in the mood, by all means put in extra saffron when you make this. If you're not interested, you're not in the mood, then you can leave the saffron out of the recipe. You don't even need it. So again, tailor it to really what resonates within you and what it is that you're looking to balance. Is it your Vata? Is it your Pitta? Or is it your Kapha? So let's go ahead and do a little meditation right now. And just before we do, I'd like to give you, a quick note on meditation and prayer. In Ayurveda, we say that prayer is us talking to a higher power. And meditation is us listening to that higher power. So prayer involves us surrendering our problems, our stress to a higher power. And meditation is us listening to the voice of our intuition, which is the voice of that higher power. And so we have to be very quiet and still to hear that voice. And we say that the voice of the ego yells and yells loudly many times. The voice of our intuition whispers and whispers but once. And so it's very important not only to speak to a higher power, to surrender our problems, but also to be able to be quiet and still with that higher power so that we can receive guidance through our intuition about what the next right action is to take. What is the next right speech to say? What is the next right feeling? What direction should we move in? Even though I'm feeling this way, how can my feeling guide me to take that next right step? So if you're in a place right now where you feel safe and comfortable and you can lie down, that would be wonderful. And you can gently close your eyes and together with me, take a nice, long, deep breath in and exhale. And again, deep inhale and exhale. And with your eyes closed, make sure that you're comfortable, that your feet are hip distance apart, your arms by your sides, your palms facing up. And just let go of all thought, worries, and tension. And give yourself fully to a higher power. Relax and trust and let go. We'll move our awareness into the body to release trapped energy and to move deeper into total relaxation. So just let your whole body sink. Let your whole body become heavy and just sink onto the bed or the sofa or the chair, into the floor. And just observe the flood of energy extending to all the muscles and nerves and cells of your entire body. And together, let's take a long, slow, deep breath in. And release. Let your whole body melt into the flood of energy. And release any holding anywhere. Take a deep breath in. and let that go. Take another deep breath in and let that go even more. Bring your awareness within you. Feel how still you are internally. If you need to, you can adjust your body into a more comfortable position. And once you're fully comfortable, try to remain relaxed and motionless, alert and conscious. Stay in touch with my guidance at all times. And allow any disturbances, external or internal, to draw you deeper within. In Yoga Nidra, we enter the subconscious pranic field. So let your mind merge and melt into the energy body and allow yourself to go beyond the boundaries of body and mind. We will now shift from thinking and doing to feeling and being. Do absolutely nothing from now on. Do nothing. Simply relax. Now your consciousness is in direct communion through your energy body. Turn your energy inward and experience the deep, powerful, energetic pulsations in the form of sensations in your body. Follow my guidance as we move our awareness through different parts of our body. Let your detached attention release the dormant healing power trapped in the energy centers of your body, from your organs to your cells, in order to carry out the healing from within. As I guide you rapidly from point to point, remain in the state of non-doing, silent awareness. Bring your undivided attention to the center of your eyebrow, to the pit of your throat, right shoulder, right elbow, right wrist, thumb, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, little finger, wrist, elbow, shoulder, pit of the throat, left shoulder, left elbow, left wrist, thumb, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, little finger, wrist, elbow, shoulder, pit of the throat, middle of the chest, right nipple, middle of the chest, left nipple, middle of the chest, navel point, middle of the pubic bone, right hip, right knee, right ankle, big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, fifth toe, ankle, knee, hip, middle of the pubic bone, left hip, left knee, left ankle, big toe, second toe, third toe, fourth toe, fifth toe, ankle, knee, hip, middle of the pubic bone, navel point, middle of the chest, pit of the throat, back to your eyebrow center. Gather all your awareness in the eyebrow center and let the non-doing presence fully manifest in your eyebrow center. Observe the vast stillness and silence within. Feel completely safe and comfortable as you hand yourself over to the power and protection of the presence. Feel it. Experience it. Be it. Hand over all fear, apprehension, and anxiety about all that you want to change, control, and manage. Let go of all doing and replace it with trust and faith in a higher power. Remain empty and free from all doing. Here, your intentions and affirmations are actualized and fulfilled with effortless ease. If you have an intention or a resolve, keep it in the present tense, perhaps something like, I am healthy, I am happy, I am whole, I am complete, I am loved, I am loving, I am love. Any resolve, anything in your life that you would love to see happen, keep it in the present tense and quietly repeat it to yourself now 3 times. Allow it to go to the deepest levels of recognition with no hesitation. Have faith and trust that it has been heard and acted upon by a higher power of the source within you. There is no need for you to do anything about it. Now bring your attention back to the center between your eyebrows and feel all the energies from your body and energy centers activated, purified, and balanced. All of your channels are open and your life force energy is flowing freely, healing the body and calming the mind. Open your heart and feel content. The more often you go to this source, the easier it will be for you to return here, and the longer you can stay here. If you have an area that you feel needs healing, be it mental, physical, emotional, or spiritual, allow this light and love to flow into that area now. Now gradually move as if you're waking from a restful sleep, keeping your eyes closed. Bring awareness to your hands, to your feet. And whenever you're ready, you may bend your knees, pull them towards your chest, and then turn onto your right side, keeping your eyes closed. Feel the safety and the comfort and the protection of presence. Bring your intention into your awareness again. Change nothing. Every time you find yourself in reaction to life, you are empowered to replace it with your intention. Keeping your eyes closed, gradually push yourself up to a seated position. And continue to stay deep in this profound inner experience. Regardless of what you consciously recognize that has or has not changed, know that something deep within you has shifted to connect you to your intention. Become aware of your body and bring a deep sense of peace and contentment with you as you bring awareness back to the body. Notice how relaxed the body is, how soft the breath is, how quiet the mind is. Know that you can easily enter here again and again by remembering this feeling. Keeping your eyes closed, briskly rub your palms together to generate heat. And when your hands are warm enough, gently cup your hands over your eyelids without touching your eyes. Keeping your hands where they are, gently blink your eyes open a few times to naturally adjust to light. Gently remove your hands from your face and gradually open your eyes. Namaste. If any of you have any questions, you are more than welcome to ask them at this point in time.
Okay, so like we discussed, Zeeba, we can take a couple questions from those with your hands raised. So, Cece, you can unmute.
Thank you so much. And I have a question.
Yeah.
I felt that I have characteristics of the three doshas. So how would I know which one is the dominant one?
So you can either go CC to see a practitioner who can tell you, and very often we do it through the pulse. If you see someone in person, we have 3 pulses, and they'll take the 3 pulses on your wrist and they'll diagnose you with your dosha. Or there are many, many quizzes online that you can take to find out. I also have one on my website, zeebahealing.com, but they're all over the internet. So, and you're right, we all have all 3. So we just have to find out which one is our primary and secondary. And the lovely thing in Ayurveda is when we focus on correcting the one that is most out of balance, then the other 2 naturally correct themselves.
When we focus on the main one, right? Like the
main one, yeah.
Dominant one.
Exactly, yes.
And we also have some questions in the chat, so we can bounce back and forth. There's a couple questions about, do doshas change over the course of one's lifetime?
Not really. We can become particularly aggravated if there is a certain trauma in time that we've experienced or a particularly bad event that we've gone through. But usually what we are born with is what we have. But that can get thrown out of balance due to external triggers. But if you're born Vata Pitta, you're going to be Vata Pitta. But if you are in a deep, deep depression for some reason and have been for many years and you can't seem to get out of it, then that means your kapha is vitiated, but just for that particular moment in time. But that particular moment in time can also be for decades, right? Good question, though.
And how about Lori? You can unmute.
Hi, thank you so much. This was wonderful. So I am curious again, could you just remind me the second one, the Vata. What was the organ for that one?
For Vata dosha, the organ is actually the mind.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Vata dosha people, that's why we tend to be prone to anxiety, because it's all the ruminating, the looping thoughts. And then we try to become control freaks because we don't want what has already happened to repeat. And so we're constantly in a stage of trying to be well prepared for that, what we perceive to be imminent danger that will occur at any time. And so it results in things like insomnia, IBS. Very often we vacillate between diarrhea because we're so nervous, or constipation because we're just so stuck in this phase of ruminating thoughts. But the organ itself is the mind.
And then if someone experiences something after a tremendous loss, so like when we were doing the meditation, and this is very frequent, since about 2 weeks after a very tremendous loss, the sensation of energy when you're still and you're trying to be still and doing the nidra and those sorts of meditations, and that energy becomes so loud in a particular area. Is that dosha related, or would that be something else?
It's usually dosha related. Yeah, and you've got to, for example, if usually when we have a tremendous grief, a tremendous loss of any kind that's resulted in grief that we haven't processed, then what we're looking at is the lungs, because grief is where the energy of grief gets stuck in our lungs, it gets trapped in our lungs, and we tend to do very, very shallow breathing.
Yeah.
Or suddenly we'll develop coughs, like really lingering coughs, or we'll get coughs or get coughing fits at night that can wake us up, or we'll even get asthma attacks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all respiratory related when we don't process our grief correctly.
So doing those dosha things would help balance that.
Absolutely. And what most people tend to forget is the majority of our lungs are actually in our back. And so, when we don't process grief correctly, we'll get these tingling sensations up and down our back. It's not, we tend to think of the lungs being in the front, but the majority physiologically is actually in our back. So that's something important to remember too. We've got to know our anatomy as well to remember, right, what emotion we're dealing with.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for your question.
And then, not sure your name, iPhone. You were next, I believe.
Yes, hi there. Thank you. Okay, so let me see if I can. Okay, hi there.
Hello.
Hi. So basically, I've been kind of somewhat familiarizing myself with Ayurveda and in Indian culture for a long time. So basically, my question is, so I understand that Triphala and Ashwagandha is good to take when your doshas are off. So I make chai at home, just like Indian style. And so my question to you is, because Triphala is supposed to be a certain taste when ingested, does adding sugar to the chai, and I usually add cinnamon and cardamom and cloves to my chai to make it taste nice, is it kind of zeroing out the fact when you add Triphala to chai?
Triphala should be taken away from the chai.
Okay, I thought
Yeah,
maybe.
it's best.
Oh.
It's best to be taken away because triphala will strengthen the digestive system, whereas chai is more of a digestif, so it's taken after we've eaten. Digest what has gone before it. I also suggest, my dear, for you that you add ginger to your chai if you're able to tolerate it. Ginger powder. Ashwagandha is not for everyone. Especially vata dosha people. If someone's suffering from anxiety already and they take low dosage ashwagandha, it can actually make their anxiety worse.
Oh, and I am vata, so okay.
Yeah, and I sense that about you. So ginger is going to be very, very good for you. Now, this doesn't mean that ashwagandha is wrong for you, but people who are vata vitiated, people who have a vata imbalance, require very high dosage ashwagandha, depending on how strongly their nervous system's out of balance. And when I say high dosage, I mean we go up to 15 grams a day of ashwagandha.
Okay.
People who have severe anxiety. If we go to the store and we get a bottle of ashwagandha, it usually says 1 or 2 capsules of 250 milligrams a day. And that's nothing. But if we already have anxiety and we take that, it can just further aggravate our nervous system instead of calming us down.
Oh, wow.
So it can have this adverse effect.
At night sometimes thinking it would relax me.
Yeah, and that's when it's going to be the worst, is when we take ashwagandha at bedtime thinking it's going to relax us and help to take care of our insomnia and help us to fall asleep and stay asleep. And it can actually aggravate the imbalance that we're already experiencing. And so, you know, you'd have to find a practitioner that you can work with so that they understand your body and what is the right maximum amount for you. And so they can titrate you up. They might start at 2 grams a day and then titrate you up, and say around 8 grams, you might start feeling really good. You're going to start feeling the way you want to feel. And they'll say, okay, even though we can go up to 15, you don't need to go up to 15 grams a day. You halt and maintain it at 8 grams, and I'll check in with you after a month. We'll see how you're feeling. And if you're still real good, then we're going to slowly start titrating you down. Because with natural herbs, these are all leaves off a plant. And so when you think about taking a leaf, drying it and crushing it, we can't get it into this one little compact capsule, right? So when we take natural herbs, spices, the quantities are larger, and sometimes it can scare us. But we're not talking about, you know, 1 tablet of Panadol or Tylenol, right? And so that's what makes it very different, is sometimes we feel like, oh my goodness, I'm so sick, I've got to take 15 grams a day. But really, because these are actual leaves that have been dried and powdered, their volume's much higher naturally. So it's not that we're sick, it's just we need that much of a dose for it to take effect. But you must work with someone who knows what they're doing, my dear, because we don't want you to feel any worse or start to develop new imbalances because you've taken too little or too much of something. But ashwagandha is actually not for everyone. And I know in the US, it's kind of like this panacea. No matter what you have, just take ashwagandha and you'll feel better. But it's not. It's not. It's phenomenal for pitta dosha people in particular.
Okay.
In particular, yeah.
Okay. So I'm assuming it's due to a lot of trauma that I've experienced the last, let's say 6-7 years almost straight. But I've been developing like little pockets of like little lymphs all over my body. So I thought maybe by taking Triphala it would help. So any recommendations for all these little lymphs that I'm like pockets of lymphs or whatever that I'm finding all over my body?
I would take an herb called arjuna.
I think I've heard of that. Okay.
Arjuna is a very, very great herb. It's for the cardiovascular system, and it also helps tremendously in circulation.
Okay.
Right? And there are these 60-second lymph massages that we can do. And you want to drain everything right down towards your armpits. And so you can start up here. If you'd like it, you can contact me directly and I can send it to you. And it's absolutely lovely. It takes 60 seconds a day and it just helps to drain the lymph from the body. And one of the best ways is just to get up and just jump to activate the lymph.
Okay, yeah. I think I'm using the right term, lymph, but they're just like they're not necessarily in the lymph nodes per se, but just like little pockets, nodules all over my body, but it's still the same, right?
Yeah, and that will
Okay.
stem from a lack of proper circulation, which
Yes.
is, again, vata vitiation.
Sounds good. I'll reach out to you then. Thank you, ma'am.
What is your name?
Lisa Johnson.
Okay, I'll keep a lookout for you then. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Zeeba, so much.